It's just, there's just so much.
Before we had a flag and we had it so it's positioned above the tent so it would be in the camp. It made us move.
What was that?
He just got shot! Holy Holy
There's been a shooting. We heard shots. We heard shots. You guys okay? Okay, love you. Be safe. Okay, be safe. There's been a shooting. I don't know who's been shot.
Okay, so those were seeing this all about Charlie Kirk. First of all, I am devastated. I am stressed. I hope he's okay. I was just Googling this and something blew my mind. This just happened September 10th. If you look on Google right now, 19 hours ago, posted by New York Times and Los Angeles Times, 19 hours ago, saying Charlie Kirk was shot. 19 hours ago would have been September 9th. Today's the 10th. This doesn't make sense. 19 hours ago. 19 hours ago. Today is the 10th. This doesn't make sense. How could the New York Times and Los Angeles Times report 19 hours ago that he had been shot when this just happened September 10th? Am I crazy? Am I crazy?
Hello everyone. Welcome back to Justice for All. I am Aaron Justice. And what a week it's been. As of this recording, it is the evening of Sunday, September 14th, 2025. And it's been an interesting week here in America. To my right here, I have the Emmy Awards on the television, and to my left here, I have a memorial service in DC at the Kennedy Center. So feel a little bit like I'm caught in between two worlds here. And how many of us have been feeling as if we're caught in between two worlds in some kind of strange Twilight Zone episode? there's been a lot of heaviness this week, to say the least. I will be making a separate video getting into some of the details behind the different events that have taken place this week. But for this, there's some things that have been coming out that are bothering me. And I know they're bothering some other people too. And so I don't have a full series planned for this or anything like that. This is just a press record, and let's talk about this and hash things out. And of course, I want to hear what you guys think about the following in your own words, thoughts, opinions, what you've seen, what your questions are. Because I don't know. I'm not pretending to come at this with answers. Only questions and confusion. And hoping that we can start, or I guess perhaps the better word is contribute to what is already an ongoing conversation, an ongoing online conversation, certainly. With that being said, I also want to state outright that this is not a political post. In the sense of political discourse between the American right and the American left, there's more than enough of that going on in the interwebs, and I do not need to add to that, nor do I have an interest in adding to that. My interest is in line with this series that I've been running, Unfit for Service, because we're seeing more things come out with each passing day concerning our country, the current administration, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and just what the hell is going on here. So I'm just making this off the cuff and throwing it out and saying, what do you guys think about this? And perhaps I'm just doing this as my own therapeutic way of just getting all of this out. Maybe, I don't know. I'm not trying to trauma dump on anyone here. Just, it's a lot of confusion, a lot of heaviness. So, I guess we'll get right to it. As everyone knows, on the afternoon, a little afternoon in Mountain Time on September 10th, one right-wing conservative, Charlie Kirk, was rapidly and brutally assassinated on a college campus in Utah. We all know it. It's been all over the news, all over the internet, and a lot of us have been caught up in the drama of that unfolding as it's been presented to us. And that's where the questions come in, is what actually happened here and what is going on in the unfolding of this story as it's being presented to us. Like so many, I was right here in my home office in between one-on-one client sessions, and the news update came across the phone, and of course at that time, reports of his passing had not come through, just that he had been shot and taken to the hospital, the local hospital there. And so I scrambled to get the information, like most people, and that's kind of where it began. The scenes of the chaos, the running, the sound of the gunshot, and then of course, a lot of us, maybe even most of us, saw the video, and that's where we're at with technology in the 21st century. We can watch the assassinations of public figures on little tablets in our pockets. I'll make another video on the craziness of that in modern technology, but for the time being, this is about the questions. So, it's unfolding, it's chaotic, and the first bizarre thing pops up immediately. So first, we have TMZ reporting that this young man is seen walking outside of campus in a maroon shirt, light shorts, and light shoes, and this happens at 8:07 a.m. And then Governor Cox later reveals that the same young man, who is suspect Tyler Robinson, pulls into the campus parking lot, arriving at the university at 8:29 a.m. Maroon shirt, light shorts, light shoes.
Video footage from UVU surveillance and identified Robinson arriving on UVU campus in a gray Dodge Challenger at approximately 8:29 a.m. on September 10th, in which he is observed on video in a plain maroon t-shirt, light-colored shorts, a black hat with a white logo, and light-colored shoes.
We see authority figures grappling with this rather old gentleman and dragging him off, giving the impression that this is the guy, this is the shooter, or at least a suspected shooter. And he's screaming things like, shoot me, and his pants are falling down, and it's pure chaos because everyone is still running around all beside him. And we just see him carry this man off, and immediately it's like, did this old man just shoot this young guy here? Like, what is happening? As we would later find out, this man is not just some random figure. He's actually known a little bit, which you would hope would give some information, some clarity, but unfortunately, the knowing of who this man is just makes it all the more strange. So let's take a look at this.
New at 6:30 here, we are learning more about the man getting arrested in this video here shortly after Kirk was shot. George Zinn was arrested Wednesday for obstruction of justice. According to police documents, he told a detective working at Utah Valley University that he had shot Kirk and asked the officer to shoot him. Zinn later on admitted that he wanted to be a martyr for the person who was shot, but also said he wanted the real suspect to get away. This arrest led to some confusion shortly after the shooting on whether the actual shooter had been arrested. Zinn was also sentenced in 2014 for threatening to plant bombs at the Salt Lake City Marathon.
All you conspiracy theorists out there, I don't want you going crazy, but what are the odds that George Zinn, the patsy that was arrested at the Charlie Kirk assassination, also saw 9/11, he saw the planes fly into the buildings and called that in and reported it, and then he also called in a fake terrorist attack at the Boston Marathon bombing, and just so happened to get arrested at Charlie Kirk's event. So Tess Keyser, she responded to this tweet and she says, Grok, is a guy really involved in all three events like this post claims? And Grok fact checks it and goes, based on a review of multiple sources, George Zinn was a witness to the 9/11 attacks, and he described seeing planes hit the towers. He was also arrested in 2013 for emailing a bomb threat joke to the Salt Lake City Marathon shortly after the Boston bombing. He pled guilty to a terrorism charge and somehow magically only received probation. He was also detained and questioned as a person of interest at the Charlie Kirk assassination on September 10th, 2025, but released without charges relating to the shooting. Then Grok went on and made sure that it told you there is no credible evidence that supports claims of his involvement in 9/11's false flag, facilitating Kirk's death, or Mossad ties. The main suspect in Kirk's killing is now Tyler Robinson, and he is in custody. So I asked Grok to break this one down for us, and it says so, and it wouldn't give me an answer first. It said it's impossible to calculate. Well, I said use statistical probability and give me a ballpark stat on the probability of him being at all three major events. And it goes through here, and it breaks it down. Then we get down here to the very bottom, where it combines the probability, right here. Combined probability. And it says it is equal to 0.705%, or 5 times 10 to the power of 8. That translates to approximately 1 in 2 billion. Does all of that seem normal to you?
Issue number 2. Where's the weapon? Now, remember, this is a weapon that has little small screws and takes a bit of time and effort to assemble and disassemble. The shot is fired. We see the suspect rise, run directly behind him. There's no assembling of a weapon or disassembling. There's no fooling about with it. We don't see, even from that distance, him trying to finagle something with his hands. Nothing. He gets up and runs. Now, while he's running, he does have something in his hand. And the people reporting the stories have just kind of, again, like the limp and the pants, they've just kind of brushed it off like, oh, there's the weapon. But this is clearly not only not a 30-06 4-foot hunting rifle, this is not a weapon at all. This is something limp and loose, and it looks like a jacket or a small bag, right? You can see it here. And he picks it up. When you zoom in, it's flapping around. It's not a gun or a weapon. And what about this huge backpack that seemed to be full when he was walking up the stairs? Where is that? What happened to, is that what's in his hand? But it looks empty and it's flapping around. It doesn't make sense. What they're saying doesn't add up. And what's even more so, he runs away. Now, of course, around this time, this is when they're going to be futzing about with Grandpa and his pants falling down and everything by yards and yards away from the kid in the building, mind you. So he runs away and back the way he came, and he ends up in this little wooded area. Kind of, I mean, it's not so much a wooded area. They say woods, but it's literally like a little area with trees and some brush and whatnot in this residential neighborhood. It's not the woods. But he does end up back there, and supposedly this is where he tosses the weapon. And then we kind of see him on that same camera back in the neighborhood before, cutting back between the houses, and finally cuts out of scene. Okay. So, here's what we have. The limp coming in. It can be a weapon in his pants. Does he have it disassembled in his backpack? Is that a possibility? If so, when does he actually assemble it? But better yet, why are the people, the press, who are getting their information from the FBI and the authorities, they didn't say that. They said, look at the limp. It's because the weapon is stuffed in his pants. What? This is what they're saying. Furthermore, we do get mugshots and photographs once all of the information comes through, and it's this kid, and he's 22, Caucasian male, and he comes from a right-wing family, but then all of this kind of misinformation gets tossed out, and there's talk of transgender ideology when literally no solid information has been released about that. And then it comes out that he's written this kind of internet meme speak and gamer talk on these bullets, but these are things that they don't even really, I don't see a 22-year-old writing these things. That's just my opinion. I don't know. Maybe that's the thing. But, talking about somebody, if you see this or catch this, you're gay, LMAO. Like, what? Kids don't talk like that. I still talk to a lot of, and work with a lot of Gen Z male who talks like that. Again, that's opinion. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I don't have 22-year-old white male living in Utah access. Could be wrong. Fair enough. But what is it with the press and this weapon and what they're trying to sell us and these pictures and these visuals? Here's another thing. The buildings on this campus have been recently renovated. And someone, of course, good old internet, someone found the actual, it's not the blueprints, but the information regarding that building and just how many security cameras were actually supposed to be on that campus right there. Let's take a look at that.
I just tracked down the internal documents from Utah Valley University that shows the exact type of security cameras that were used, and we got a lot of questions. You're going to want to see this. This is their own internal document showing us the roof access point and exactly how the cameras were mounted at the university where Charlie Kirk was assassinated. So the first thing I want to point out, it's Utah Valley University. This is their telecommunication distribution guide of June 1st of 2022. So this is when they last were updating and installing new security cameras. So the Utah Valley University telecommunication distribution guide of June 1st of 2022. If you go through this document, it talks about how they're actually adding new cables and they're going to be adding cameras at specific areas all throughout the school. So basically, you should have at least some security footage at this school from newer camera models from at least 2022, but how many? So we want to talk about how many cameras are on these universities or college campuses. And I just kind of took an average over here so we can see St. John's University based off the amount of kids that we have at campus, based off the amount of cameras. So any time a university has roughly over 30,000 students, you're looking at least over 15, if not 1,800 cameras. And then I go, well, how about Utah? Well, Utah Valley University is one of the only ones where I couldn't get an accurate number of cameras, but they have 45,000 students. So if you have a university that has 45,000 students, you would think that you would have roughly over 2,000. But I asked Grok, and Grok for some reason says, well, 500 to 70 is the estimate, or 500 to 700, because we don't have an accurate number. Okay, so now we're going to talk about this other campus of theirs. So this is at the Utah Valley University, the Wasatch campus. So this is going to give us an idea of how these cameras were set up, just so everybody has an idea. And I got to zoom in really quick here, so I'm just going to kind of hold the camera back here a little bit. A complete video surveillance system shall be provided. An Arlington-specific system will be provided with local recordings. The CCTV system includes controls for visual monitoring of building perimeters, all building entry points, exit points at select main buildings, thoroughface, elevator lobbies, and at select sensitive interior areas. High megapixel cameras will monitor exterior areas, including the building's perimeter. Fixed megapixel cameras will monitor designated locations inside the building. Cameras will be installed in appropriately rated enclosures. Signals from the cameras will be connected to a central switching, a multiplexing system with a minimum 21-inch video monitor for viewing. All camera images will be digitally recorded by NVRs that are local area network accessible. Additionally, cameras will be capable of being monitored and controlled at remote locations via the LAN. Provide NVR with 50% spare channels. Cameras shall be fixed with 1080p HD IP cameras, and this is attached to a meeting date of 8/6/2024. So this leaves us with a lot more questions. For example, what is the FBI hiding? We have the opportunity as citizens to come together as a collective and really hunt and find down this bad guy. But we want to know, how did he leave the campus? How did he leave the parking lot? Why are we not getting the video surveillance footage which could help us identify this guy? They have 1080p HD cameras that were surveilling this man on probably multiple different locations throughout that campus. So if this is the guy that they claim was on the roof, then we should 100% have video surveillance of the man leaving the roof. Check this out. This is their own internal document showing us the roof access point and exactly how the cameras were mounted at the university where Charlie Kirk was assassinated. So at that campus, that shooter could have not been on the roof without being within 20 or 30 feet of a 1080p HD surveillance camera that was most likely installed between 2022 and 2024.
Okay, so now we're just going to cut straight to the chase of it. Over the course of this time, we are learning of the events of one 22-year-old Caucasian male, Tyler Robinson, who is now officially the lead suspect in the shooting and the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Now, the way this unfolds is through a series of camera footage, CCTV, and also the still frames that have come from the various cameras on the property, taken and begin to paint a picture. And so we're going to trace it back and just kind of start at the beginning and go through, because this is wild. This man is in a neighborhood on a suburban street that's clearly taken from a home surveillance camera, and it shows the suspect in question walking down the street, long pants, dark attire, hat, sunglasses, okay, matching the description they gave. And with him, he has a very, let's just say, noticeable gait. And that is, he has quite the limp of his right leg. You can very clearly see it here as he's crossing the street and walking down past these houses before the shooting. This, according to authorities, is him on the way to campus. Now, let's pay attention here. He's got a rather noticeable limp of the right leg. Authorities are saying that this is because he has the murder weapon tucked into his jeans and he's carrying it, and that is the reason for this limp. Now, this is important because the weapon in question is a 4-foot 30-06 hunting rifle with a scope. And this man, this young kid, who is quite rail thin and wearing, let's say, form-fitting clothing. And he has a 4-foot rifle assembled with a scope and a barrel stuffed into his nearly tight, skinny jeans. Okay. With that, in the walk, he is limping, but you can clearly see that he is bending his right knee. It is slight because of the limp. It's not a fully extended bend and walking leg, but it is bent. This is important because if he has this gun stuffed into his pants, in his jeans, in the way they are saying, he's not going to be able to bend his knee in that way on a walk, at least not without having this bulging barrel of a hunting rifle noticeable. Now, we're going to see this more clearly in the upcoming stills right here. These are pictures from, let's see, he's gone to the end of this neighborhood street, under a tunnel. He's gone down the steps through this tunnel, and now he's climbing the stairs, presumably to the building and the roof that he's going to be perched on. This is him climbing up the stairs in these jeans and this shirt, hat, sunglasses. Now, I want you to take a look at these photos, because do you even remotely believe that a 4-foot-long hunting rifle with a scope assembled is stuffed in these jeans? That's not, I mean, they're not even relaxed fit. I mean, these are tight, right? It's the backside. You can see. Okay, so there's that. Now, people who know a lot more about guns and weapons than I do have stated that this particular rifle, Mauser, is actually rather difficult to assemble and disassemble. You actually have, it involves tiny screws, and it is a bit of a complicated process. It's not something you just click into place in 5 seconds. So, is this rifle disassembled in his backpack here? Because that's not what they said. They said it was assembled and stuffed down into his jeans, which was causing him to limp this way. Okay? Now, he's up the stairs. He gets into place. The shooting happens. Now, what was reported? Obviously, the gun has to be put together. But what was reported is that the weapon was found fully assembled in a towel, wrapped up in that towel in this wooded area. Okay? So, in order for that to be, this 22-year-old would have to fire a single shot. Now, mind you, this is 200 yards. 200 yards away. And this 22-year-old on a downward slope with 3,000 people around causing noise and commotion, and a target that is moving. Albeit, yes, he's sitting and talking, so it's not large amounts of movement, but still, his body is moving as he speaks. And it's enough. And this 22-year-old with this hunting rifle gets him in the neck in one shot, one bullet, over and done with. Now, there are people online who found that said that technically, yes, this is possible. That kind of hunting rifle with a scope, and anybody who has had some training and use with the weapon could do this, could pull this off. Okay, fine. Let's assume that's the truth and that's what's happened. Now, let's go back to what they said. Gun is assembled in a towel in the woods, away from the building. The shot goes off. The suspect gets up, turns around, runs behind him to the back edge of this building, which seems to be somewhere between 10 and 15 feet tall. He goes to the edge of the building, climbs over, dangles off, and then falls to the ground. Now on the ground, it looks like he's lost maybe his sunglasses or something of that sort. He bends over, picks up, and then he takes off. A couple of things about this image. Number one, where's the limp? He's no longer limping. He's running across the roof, he's jumping off the building, and he gets up and he's running across the field. No limp, fully functional. Point number two, as I asked before, where is the weapon? See, he got up, ran away. This is happening, this is unfolding. As soon as the shot rings out, he starts running on his non-limping leg, and there's no weapon. We see him run across the roof. He jumps off. He grabs something small. He runs away. No limp and no gun. But somehow, we are to believe that he did all of this, and then somehow, magically, reassembled this rifle in the woods, on the run, adrenaline pumping, wraps it in a towel, and just tosses it aside. A kid at 22 years old who is savvy enough to get past all security, all hundreds of cameras, take out a grown man who is moving from 200 yards away on a downward slope, and he doesn't have more sense than to wrap this weapon that magically disappears and reappears in a towel and toss it in some bushes just yards away from where he committed this murder. Make it make sense. Make it make sense. It doesn't. And a lot of people are asking questions because a lot of people are starting to finally wake up. We are being lied to, whether we want to believe it or not. We're being lied to. The question is, how much darker is this story going to get? Well, unfortunately, we're about to find out. See you in part 2.